maybe a fourth. They're coming at him, he's been 6 and 7. Tom DeMorris has been an 8. Oh, wow. No.
Well, another week and another massive week in terms of rugby league news. Plenty happening off the field. We're here tonight to talk everything happening on it ahead of round at 20. Ryan Selvage, Tommy Hudson back to talk that and plenty of SuperCoach tonight as well. Tommy, mate, talking of a big news week, it just doesn't sleep, does it, rugby league?
Never a dull moment. Good day, Ryan. You've got neighbours, you've got home and away, and then you've got, I think rugby league is the best soap opera of them all in Australia anyway. There's always something happening even when they're not playing. So pretty big, and it's pretty big on SuperCoach also. So looking forward to get stuck into it tonight.
Speaking of neighbours, it's coming to a close very soon. So to the NRL season, just what do we got now? 5 weeks to go, including this. And of course, SuperCoach finals starting very, very soon as well. If you are playing finals, that is, round 21, I think it's been brought forward. The general comp this year, some comps will still go through till round 25. So plenty to look forward to there. That's a couple of weeks away though. Tommy, your rank. Let's get straight into ranks from last week because overall scores across the board down, you could say, but you're still managing to hover around the top 500.
Yeah, it was red arrows again, down to I think 521 overall. I only got a tick under 1200, mostly because of James Tedesco. He actually saved me. Without him, it would have been pretty bleak. How about you?
Yeah, myself, top 5% overall. A shocking score last week. Top 25%. Just a tick over 1100. So I think that was pretty standard. If you didn't vice Teddy and found a way to loop him in, you did. We might get into news after this. Let's do our good, our bad, and our ugly, because I think it's a good little segue here into some of these points that we're about to talk about from last week. And you want to kick us off on that exact point there. James Tedesco, 150 points upwards against Newcastle Knights. Vintage Teddy.
Yeah, well, I do apologise if anyone follows our final team reveal or whatever we do on a Thursday night, because I did have Garrick initially as my vice captain, but change of heart Friday afternoon, went to Teddy, and thankfully I did because he got, I think, 152. Really good scoring. Obviously with Manu out, probably helped him a little bit. So he definitely saved my week and saved a lot of people's weeks, I'd say.
So what level did impact did the weather have on that? And I guess a message to maybe not so experienced super coaches, and those listening are probably well equipped with checking the weather before the game, but just what impact did that have, and how much did that come into calculations pre-game?
Yeah, it did for me for sure. I think I put on Fox League, half an hour before the game or whatever, and you could just see Cogra. It was quite wet and slippery, and I don't think Manly's style of footy suits that. So I thought I was going to say for option in Teddy, and sometimes those decisions don't actually work out, but definitely did the other night.
Speaking of dry weather footy, how about Sunday afternoon footy up there in Townsville? As I said, dry deck, Valentine Holmes weather, 24 degrees, and I was banging on about Val Holmes for weeks and weeks, and sure enough, he repaid the faith. I think he scored about 119 in the end. Could have been more. The Cowboys probably wasteful with their opportunities and had a good stint there against 12 men as well and didn't find any points in that time. So the Cowboys got away with one there in the end. And speaking of big news this week, that probably heads the agenda.
Yeah, big news indeed. I don't want to get too angry about it again. I've just settled down, I think, after Sunday. But no, Val, I don't have him, so watching him rip up in the second half was difficult, I guess, but he was really good, and credit to people like yourself who sort of found him early. Bad for me last week, probably Cody Walker. Only 15 points in a team, South Sydney, who scored 5 tries. He just didn't get involved in any of their attacking play, and I think he got rattled earlier by Justin Olam, and he never really recovered from that.
Yeah, Souths just keep rolling on, don't they? And Latrell Mitchell probably taking those points away from Cody Walker to an extent, and Alex Johnston. I say this to you off air and in our group chats and such. We're witnessing history with Alex Johnston, aren't we? And I guess given the year that we saw him have last year, it was always going to be hard to back it up, but he's making an absolute fist of it on that left edge.
It's just unbelievable. I mean, a lot of people, maybe even including myself, probably thought he just crossed the ball over the white stripe most times, but the way he finishes his tries, especially the other night, they were great finishes, and only someone like him could do that.
Got to put some more respect on his name. I think he's just seen as a catch the ball, put down sort of merchant, but he does a hell of a lot of work. On the bad though, for me personally, it has to be Ruben Garrick. I went hard at him, sort of 1 week too late in the end. He obviously got that big score against Newcastle. I missed that. I dived in at a high price against the Dragons. Wet weather footy just didn't suit Garrick. So that's probably my bad. I'm going to lead straight into my ugly here because we've spoken about Manly. And in that same game, Olakau'atu, my trade-in for last week at the big price, expected a big score against the Dragons. Wasn't the case, and now for reasons that we've heard plenty about, he's not going to be there in round 20 to take on the Chooks. So that has to be my bad and my ugly up there. A couple of Manly players.
Yeah, I think Olakau'atu, yes, he didn't play overly well, but I do think he was carrying injury in that game. You could see him go down early in the first half, and he never seemed to recover from it. So maybe some excuses there, but it doesn't help this week, obviously. My ugly's from the same game, Ben Trbojevic. I haven't been able to catch him all year, and I decided to throw him in at the last minute last week on my bench, and yeah, only 15 points, and then he got a HIA, so never really been on the right side of Burbo this year, unfortunately.
He is the SuperCoach enigma, isn't he? He scores 100 one week, he's on your bench, and then the next week he's not playing, and he's probably getting a 4 and causing nightmares for your loop contingency plans there. Now, obviously, Tommy, big show tonight coming up. As we say, plenty happening off the field and at the judiciary tonight as well. Dale Finucane and Corey Waddell facing their charges. We'll bring you that news as we get it down the line tonight. But before that, let's talk some round at 20 footy. I was about to say round 21, getting ahead of myself. Round 20 footy, and that team we've spoken about a little bit there already tonight to kick us off. Manly and the Roosters. This one at 4 Pines Park, or the old Brookie Oval in Manly, without a host of stars.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure they either started favourite here or were very close to it. It was close to even money, the market, the odds with TopSport. And 7 players now out and 7 genuine starting players. They're out to $6. So that just tells you what you need to know. I guess it's changed the game completely, and a lot of these Roosters players are looking really good options now.
Now, I've heard plenty about the apologies and such, and the jersey controversies. I'm not going to get into that tonight because I think it's been done to death already. But we have to speak about the SuperCoach implications. That's what we'll do. Garrick, of course, he will be there. Cherry Evans as well. But some of those other names like Olakau'atu and even the young cheapie Kula, 2 names which have figured or that would have been planning to figure this week in different teams, they won't be there. So how do we overcome that? Is it a case of just we have to hold on for a week, or do we look to move them on?
Well, I don't know about you, but I don't have enough trades to sort of cover something like this. I don't have them, but if I did, I wouldn't be able to just get rid of them for missing 1 week. I'd probably just have to bench them and wait, especially someone like Olakau'atu who has, a decent ceiling, and hopefully when he comes back, he will go back to his best, but it is very frustrating. I would also say that those who own Garrick, which most probably do, and also DCE, I feel like a lot of these forced outs are just going to impact their scores as well.
Yeah, just on the point of Olakau'atu there, as I said, I brought him in last week, and sort of frustrating because at his price, I could have went to other names like Cam Murray or David Fafita, potentially even Angus Crichton, who's thereabouts as well. And Angus is probably gearing up for a big one in this game here. And again, if I had my time again, maybe you think twice. Not to know, though. I guess some good news to come out of this on the team sheets, on the other side of the team sheet, that is for the Roosters, that Joey Manu is back, a big player in terms of SuperCoach output, and I guess for their general chances in this game as well. Certainly helps to have the world's best, what do you call him, centre utility fullback 5'8". What is he?
He's whatever he wants to be, really. When he's given a free rein at the ball and just going where he wants, he's so good. And look, I don't know who he's going to be marking up against here because the Manly backs are very obviously inexperienced. Pio Secchi, Alfred Smalley are the wingers, and then Morgan Harper, Dylan Walker in the centres. So I think either way, Joey Manu could be in for a big night. And then you've got Teddy obviously roaming around at the back, and 150 last week up against an inexperienced team here. He could be on for another triple figure score.
Those odds with topsport.com.au, you mentioned it opened up closer to $1.90 each of 2. The Roosters now, as we go to air tonight, $1.13. Manly $6 head to head. That line's just been on the drift all day. 16.5 points now. Manly, the outsiders, even still $1.95 with the start. So, the market's directing one-way traffic towards the Roosters. You mentioned there names like Tedesco, obviously Manu as well. But what about some of these other names that we may have traded out at different points, like Joseph Suwali or Suwali'i, Joey Manu potentially if you got rid of him with injury, or even Angus Crichton. Is it time to bring these guys back?
Yeah, perhaps even their halves options, possibly Sam Walker. I've seen a few people mention him this week as a bit of a pod option. He's been going good the last 2 weeks. He kicks goals, albeit not that well, but he's still extra points when he does kick them over. Even Luke Keary looked really good last week, but I wouldn't be rushing into him. But yeah, really good game for the Chooks here, you'd think.
James Tedesco, $1.93 anytime try scorer. Joey Manu, $2.11 between them. I'm sure you'll get your money back if you have a little play, topsport.com.au on that one. Tommy, we might leave that game there. It looks a one-way go there, but as we saw last week, never a sure thing in rugby league. The first game on Friday, which we'll talk about now, the Warriors and the Storm. Look, two teams which come into this game with different fortunes in the sense that Melbourne, we thought that they'd be high-flying this time of year. It's not the case, and the Warriors, they're struggling, but that's sort of what we have come to expect from them.
Yeah, I guess so. They were looking like getting a rare win last week against the Raiders, but couldn't see it out. And the Storm are 4 losses in a row, first time since 2015. So obviously a pretty rare position for the club to be in. Are they gone? Or is this just a blip before the semis? But to me, they look pretty bad.
Yeah, it's the way that they're conceding points, isn't it? Which is a concern, and probably don't have the strike like they used to. And obviously Ryan Pappenhausen's season-ending injury there doesn't help their cause. Are they gone? No, I'd never write them off. A team with Munster, Hughes. They're going to get back Brandon Smith. Harry Grant's still there. I think they've still got enough pieces. I don't know if they make the top 4. I don't think they're gone, and come finals time, I wouldn't want to be betting against them. And I won't be here either. $1.21 head-to-head. The Warriors outsiders here, $4.50 at home. Maybe slight overs there, but if you prefer the start, 12.5, that's what the Warriors are going to get.
Yeah, they did play well in their only other game in New Zealand this year. They beat, obviously, only the Tigers, but they did play well that day. Didn't concede a try, so that's positive signs for them. Reece Walsh also back at fullback, which, being realistic, that's their best team with him at the back. I think, though, even though the Storm are struggling, the next 2 weeks they play the Warriors and the Gold Coast. So players like Munster and Grant, I mean, if you have them or you're thinking about getting them, I think you get them this week because the next 2 weeks are very good fixtures.
Is it coincidental that the week that they're playing the Storm, suddenly Reece Walsh is back into the number 1 jersey? I don't think so. I think probably gives them more ammunition to keep him because obviously they were trying to get him. What about his opposite number 1 though, Nick Meaney? I think he's been doing a good job, solid without maybe lighting it up like Pappenhausen does. But from a Supercoach sense, suddenly I think he's relevant. You mentioned the next 2 weeks especially. If the Storm can click in their attack, then he could be, I guess, the beneficiary of that. He's kicking goals as well. So I think I'd look today, his season average above 60 and his 3-round average about 66. So he's definitely playing some good footy, Nick Meaney.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously with Paps gone for the year, his position is assured. I don't think he's going to be able to sign another fullback from another club, so he should get that role for the rest of the year. 2 good games coming up, but then they do have a hard last month. So yeah, again, if you're going to get Meaney in, you'd go this week for sure.
Meaney responsibly. We're looking at anytime try scorers here, and obviously if we are, we're probably playing the Storm given the fact that they are firm favourites in the market. Speaking of, they're probably expecting Xavier Coates back either next week or the week after, so I guess that's some good news for them, and he is a prolific try scorer at that. Looking at what's available this week though, Dean Eremaya, $1.86. That man Meaney, $2.15. They're the favoured ways. Bit of value there around the halves. Munster and Hughes, about $2.80 each.
Yeah, left field one for me. Marian Seve anytime, $2.98. Only because I saw the Warriors play the Raiders the other day and we scored, I think, at least 3 of our tries down the right-hand side. So the Warriors left defensively, so possibly Seve.
Yeah, Matt Timoko looked like Mal Meninga down that right side the other day. So Seve could be in for a big game there. Let's leave that one there, though, because the main game on Friday, of course, this one, the Eels and the Panthers. The Panthers just 1 loss this year, and that was to the Eels. So Parramatta, albeit out of form, they'll take confidence heading into this one. $3.40 outsiders at CommBank Stadium, the old Bankwest Stadium. Very rare you get that price for Parramatta at home.
No, you're right, and it's been quite a fortress ever since it was erected a few years ago. But I have to say, last week, even though the Brisbane Broncos are a good side, to concede 36 to them at home, I think it's alarming, and they've been conceding points at will lately, the Eels.
yeah, definitely going to have to tighten that up against Penrith. But in, I guess, and welcome news for the Eels, not so much Penrith, Jerome Luai, one of their main attacking threats, the Panthers, he's going to miss up to 8 weeks, potentially back as soon as 6, but at least some time off. Sean O'Sullivan comes in. He'll do a job, but he's not, I guess, the arrogance, the ball player that you get with Luai.
Yeah, and I feel like almost Luai is as much a loss on the field as he is almost off it. The way he talks, you can tell he's like the leader of their almost culture there. So I think not having him could be, I guess, detrimental to their aspects going forward. But I mean, if he's back by the semis, it shouldn't matter. But just for this week, I agree it's a big out. But Sean O'Sullivan's a solid player and possibly picking up in draft like I did.
Yeah, if you are scraping the barrel, Shawnee O'Sullivan, he should be there in most of your leagues. Obviously, Steve Crichton expected to miss. Actually, he does with Jennings playing in the centres, that nasty ear injury for Crichton. He may miss a couple of weeks. You say here in the sheet, did the Eels lift again? Can they do it again? I think they're a big chance. I think they get a favourable game here. Backs against the wall mentality. This is when Parramatta stand up.
They really do stand up against Penrith too. They obviously nearly beat them week 2 of the semis last year. It was a very unlucky loss. They smashed them in a trial match. I know it doesn't matter, but still 36-0 it was. And then they beat them in round 9 or 10 this year. And they're coming off the back of a lot of losses. You know, if they're ever going to stand up, it is this week. So I agree, you know, $3.40 plus 9.5. I'd rather be with the Eels, but it's a brave man to ride off Penrith, isn't it?
It is. Just looking here, anytime try scorers. Look, it's like tipping winks, but Maker Sivo, $2.32 at home. He has a strike rate there about 100%. Rarely does he go a game without scoring. Maker Sivo, $2.32, and I think the Eels can win. Forget the 9.5. I think this is a game that they would have targeted maybe 2 or 3 weeks out, and I don't know, they've been flat lately. If they can't find a reason to get up against Penrith, then they may as well not turn up for finals footy because, I mean, this is the biggest challenge and you have to beat them now.
I feel like if they are to win, they need to defend a lot better, and then I'd be on the unders, maybe under 41.5. But yeah, Eels with the line if I had to play, but it's more just a game I'm really excited to watch.
Gamble responsibly. Next game here, looking at this, Saturday afternoon footy, you're back in the unders in this in that game there, the Panthers and the Eels. I dare say you'd probably be keen on the overs here. The Titans and the Raiders, as we say, Saturday afternoon footy, 3 p.m. on the Gold Coast. The TopSport Titans at home here, $2.90. Outsiders, the Raiders, $1.42. Far from convincing against the Warriors, but found a way to get home in the end.
Yeah, it showed a bit of attacking flair for once. Maybe that was just the Warriors' poor defence, I don't know, but job done. 9 wins, 9 losses. A chance to make the semis, but this week is another really winnable game and a game that we should put away the opposition.
Probably 2 big names up front in terms of SuperCoach selections would be Joey Tarpanay. He just continues to bang out scores upwards of 75. What about David Fifita? Tommy, you brought him back a couple of weeks ago. Have you been impressed with the way he's played, or you're after a bit more?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I feel like the general rugby league community has been kind of negative on Dave Fifita, and obviously when you're 1.2 mil a year, you're expecting great things. But in terms of SuperCoach, you know, the last 2 weeks, 75, 69, they've lost both games. He's played 80 minutes both times. So, look, it could have been a lot worse. I think it's actually been pretty good. They got a tough little run after this week, but I'm happy with how he's going, to be honest.
How about their defence, though, the Titans? They just bleed points. So probably a good game here for an anytime try scorer or a SuperCoach pickup. Probably more so in draft comps and looking to snake someone like a free agent or a waiver tonight, Tuesday night or Wednesday morning if you get up early. Nick Cottridge, potentially. I don't know how deep they run. Is Albert Hopewade, is he named in this one?
He is, and he was actually quite good last week, following the long chain of Hopewade boys in NRL, but he was good and he should get maybe a decent run in the team if he plays well again.
I think the -7.5, they should gobble that up, the Raiders. Don't worry about the away fixture here. They just get it done for mine. Anything else here in terms of SuperCoach? It is a bit of a barren game because 2 teams with not much relevance.
Nah, not really. I mean, another one for draft could be Jamal Fogarty. He might already scooped up, but 111 the other day. His goal kicking is really good as well. So just a little sneaky one there.
Always an option with the goal kicking, and that's where we look to in this one. The next game on Saturday, the 5:30 kickoff, the Sharks and the Rabbitohs, mentioning goal kickers there, Latrell Mitchell, sublime form with the boot, but also just general play. He's right up there. Nico Hines, probably a little bit of a dip in form, fair to say, Tommy, in recent times. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think he's posted a 3-figure score since that afternoon against the Warriors way back in April. So I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he scored a couple of 90s, but in terms of going absolutely mental and breaking out of those shackles, it's been a long time.
No, you're not wrong. You really are. And you're definitely not here. Round 9, 185 against the Warriors. That was a big score, obviously. But yeah, since then, he got 296s. Other than that, it's been, by his standards, pretty low scoring. So I guess everyone's owning him, let's be honest. But they'd want to start seeing a bit more return for investment. But they have a good run coming up the Sharkies, so I wouldn't lose faith just yet.
If you were playing Nico at the back, though, is it maybe time you look to a Teddy or even a Latrell if you're not holding him yet? Because these guys, they do have the ability to put on 3 figures and potentially upwards. We saw that last week with Tedesco, just how quickly he could go from a score of 80 to 150 in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, look, I'm still not keen to get rid of Hines. I just think the other day he only got 47, which is his lowest score for about 3 months. And that was a wet night at Penrith, so you're not going to get any harder than that. You just quickly indulge me. They run home, Souths, but then Dragons, Tigers, Manly, Dogs, Knights. It's a very soft run. Probably four of the worst teams in the comp within that run. I think you just have to hold him.
Sets up nicely for Nico and the Sharks. They are favourites here at home, $1.70 favourites head-to-head. The Rabbitohs, $2.15 outsiders, topsport.com.au. The line, 2.5, so $1.90 each of 2 there. I'm pretty keen on the Bunnies here. Now, I know this is a sold-out game and the Sharks, they'll jam it in down there at Shark Park as it is. But is there a better player in the NRL right now than Latrell Mitchell? And I'm probably asking the wrong man, as I say. You picked him draft pick 5. You're very keen on him, and it's with good reason why.
Yeah, he's just come back a different beast. Like, obviously, I've always rated him highly, but he looks a lot more focused. The other night, it's quality, not quantity with him as well. I feel like he's not getting over-involved, but everything he touches is turning to gold, and he's going to need every bit of that skill against the Sharks this week. I think if I was betting here, $1.82, it's pretty boring, but Alex Johnson anytime, it's just licensed to print money at the moment, isn't it? He just goes over. Even if Souths only score 2 or 3 tries, they're going to go left for the majority of those. So I think just get on AJ again.
And obviously that right side will be a relatively new combination there with Connor Tracy and Jesse Ramian. Sione Katoa gone for the season. So, Tracy, good player by his own right, but yeah, if Johnston gets half a sniff, we've seen it in recent weeks, he's going to finish it off. $1.82, is that right? Tristan might be changing that to $1.28. He might have got the decimal points around the wrong way there. Just on Alex Johnston quickly, his price in SuperCoach, upwards of $700,000. You mentioned a good game here, but have we missed the boat on AJ?
Maybe. From memory, their run is quite hard. I'm just looking at it up now. And that's a expensive price. Like, that's a premium CTW price. He has been scoring really well though, but a tough run after this week. The last 4 weeks: Parramatta, Penrith, Cowboys, Roosters. That's tough going. But the way Souths are going, he might be able to defy the doubters, I guess.
I think round 21. Correct me. You may have. Said it there, but they have the Warriors, I think, round 20.
The Warriors is their last game before the tough run, so yeah, maybe not too late. If you get him soon.
Yeah, I think that could be a big one. That one's Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. kickoff. We are looking a little bit ahead here, but that could be a big day out for the Rabbitohs there. We'll move on. Next game, last game on Saturday. Rare we see the Broncos rounding us out on Super Saturday, but they do here, and it is against the Tigers, who will... they can't buy a win, the Tigers. Even when they probably should win, they don't. We saw that twice now this season. Last week against the Cowboys. Before that, the Titans. You're shaking your head, Tommy, because are they robbed? You've got here, they were robbed.
I don't see how they weren't. I can't find anyone really who agrees with that decision the other day. We won't go too much into it, but it was just disappointing. I think they were $8 or $9, the Tigers with TopSport. That would have been the biggest upset for years, and it was unfortunately taken away, but they go again back up in Queensland this week against the Broncos team who just keep finding ways to win.
Speaking of the Broncos, a big win last week and bolstered with in no small part thanks to the return of Payne Haas, scored a try. But I want to talk about Paddy Carrigan. I could talk about him all day. What about his return? He's just so impressive. And we mentioned Ola Kawatu out at the top, and those other names like Murray, Fafita I mentioned. Carrigan, he's got to be a real consideration. He's solid 65, and when he does have that a bit of attacking ball play in him, he does go upwards of 70, sometimes even upwards of 90. He's done that already this year. So he could be an option, a pod play to finish us off.
100%. And I think even if not this year, next year he's going to be one of those sort of first pick players, player you definitely want to target in draft, because just looking at his consistent scoring this year, the only time he's really gone below 50 was when he got injured 2 separate times. So other than that, very high scoring, 77 the other day, as you said there. He's playing really well and he's vital to Brisbane's chances going forward. Payne Haas, that man you mentioned, he was good the other day. He scored that great try. Starting to look back in some of his best form. Maybe he's someone we can get back on the horse with.
On the Bronco with. Potentially via a duel as well. If you are running a Papali'i or a Tapane up front, you can shift one of those guys down, get Payne back in up front. He's never going to let you down unless he does his shoulders or his ankle again. Cobbo's out though, and that's a blow because they're expecting him back soon. They would have loved to have him here. Deloise, Hoyter and Dean Mariner into the back line. So a bit of a makeshift number 1 to 5 potentially there for the Broncos, but they should still get it done.
Yeah, it seems like that next man up mentality, that cliche at the moment for the Broncos. Anyone comes in and does a really good job. So yeah, I think they'll probably get the win. I think Tigers will be up for it given how last week went down, but yeah, tough to go against the Broncos.
Yeah, and I guess, I don't know if they stayed up in Queensland this week. Actually, I think they came home. So doing a bit of travel this week. The Tigers from Townsville to Sydney, back up to Brisbane. I don't know. They may be flat. They could get up for it, but could you not be flat after that result the other day? We may leave that one there. Just before we do, the line 17.5. It looks big, but the Broncos, their defence this year is, you got to respect it. They're not conceding tries like they used to in seasons bygone. So that's 17.5. It looks big, but it really may not be by the end of that. Let's go to this one, though, the Knights and the Bulldogs. The Knights going to be without Kalen Ponga for the rest of the year, Tommy. How does that hurt or help their chances?
It doesn't help their chances as much as you might think it does, but they really struggle without him to attack, to score any points at all. Yeah, I think they're really going to struggle the rest of the year. Their coach called it a tough, shitty season, and I think it's only going to get worse from here on in.
Yeah, look, hands up and cards on the table. I did cash out of my Knights bet to run last, but they're every chance suddenly again. I think there's a couple of decisive fixtures coming up. I think the Tigers play the Titans or the Titans play the Knights, and potentially 4-point swings in these games coming up. Their for and against is the worst of any of those bottom 3 teams, the Knights. And even, we've seen how quickly they can get blown off the park this year. The Roosters last week. Previous, we've seen Parramatta and Melbourne post 48 points or more against them. So they want to be careful here against the Bulldogs because this could get embarrassing quickly, and the Bulldogs suddenly in great form.
It definitely could. They're averaging 33 points conceded at home this year. That's just ridiculous stat, really. It shows that their attitude, and they have big crowds too. They're not a team that plays in front of 5,000 people. They'll have 15, 20k there every week, and they're still turning up that sort of effort. It's pretty disappointing. But the Dogs, like you're saying, they've hit some attacking form. Burton and Josh Adokar, obviously two representative players. They're showing that week in, week out. They're a two-man team almost, but they're a bloody good two-man team. And if they have a bit of fun on Sunday afternoon, it could be another big score.
Yeah, if you're betting your try scorers from the Bulldogs, don't overcomplicate it. It's Adokar and it's Burton. And beyond that, it's just cream on the cake. Like you say there, Corey Waddell at the Judiciary tonight probably doesn't matter a hell of a lot. The Bulldogs' favourites here, $1.48 away from home at Newcastle, and the line a flat 6 as we go to air tonight. I don't know. Is there any SuperCoach relevance here? I mean, potentially.
Well, we'll get to our trades soon, but I do think Matt Burton is playing really good footy. As I said there, he's in everything the Dogs do. He goal kicks pretty well. So I think there's worse options than him at 6, given that Cody Walker and Dylan Brown aren't in amazing form. I would say here for a bet, probably my best bet of the weekend, other than AJ to score. I think the Dogs -6 at the flat 6 there. I think they'll just get it done. I think if they do win, they'll win pretty well with Newcastle not having much defensive resolve. So get on that one responsibly.
Tommy's best, the Bulldogs. Okay, let's leave that one there. Last game of the week before we push on to trades and other talk. The Dragons and the Cowboys. The Dragons, I mean, they continue to surprise us. You think they're going to lose, they win. You think they're going to win, they lose. But they're a hard team to catch. But in saying that, you're not expecting them to win this week, so suddenly they might produce a performance. And it all comes on the back of one man. It's Ben Hunt, and he's just in career best form.
Yeah, well, I said the Doggies are a two-man team. I think the Dragons are a one-man team. He does everything for them. His kicking game's been so good lately. He's scoring a lot of their tries as well. So he's going really well. And I think a big injury here for them is Cody Ramsey. He's out. He's obviously much maligned fullback at the start of the year, but he's turned into one of their best players. And I don't think Moses Mbai at the back has the sort of same impact as Cody.
No, not at all. And Ramsey, just speed. You can't buy that speed, can you? And he's a natural at that. You say here it's a must-win for the Dragons if they want to play finals footy. Does that help them? I mean, the Cowboys, they're suddenly guaranteed that top 4 spot. They might not come out with that same vigour.
Well, I don't know. Obviously, the Cowboys won the other day, but do you think it was a concerning performance? Conceding 26 points to the Tigers really should have lost the game. Was it just, I guess, a blip on the radar for the Cowboys, or are they maybe going backwards a little bit?
Maybe it's one of those games that they just rocked up and thought they were going to put on 30, like we all did. Val, though, he's probably the shining light in that, and obviously had that crowning moment there to kick the goal. You know, it was his birthday the other day in that game. It was his birthday. 20, I think he's 28 now, Val, so he's getting on, 27. But no, anyway, aside from that, he impressed, and I think, as I said, he was always going to look good in that game. This game on paper probably sets up nicely, but weather's going to be a factor again on this weekend.
Is it? Wow, well, God, we've seen plenty of that this year, haven't we? But it might not matter for someone like Val Holmes. And the Dragons are another team like Newcastle who have often conceded points in bunches this year. So if the Cowboys get on a roll, someone like Val Holmes could go big again. They then play the Bulldogs the week after that, and then the Warriors in a couple of weeks too. So as we said last week, you know, Val's run is really good, and it's probably not too late to get on him if you haven't already.
What are we looking at with Scotty Drinkwater? He was pulled last week or hooked. Gets his number 1 jersey back this week, but as long as Hamaso is there, it's always a concern, isn't it? Because, you know, an error here, an error there, suddenly he can be on the bench, and they may look for more speed with Hammer at the back.
Yeah, it's just like the cloud that looms on the horizon, the Hammer just sitting on the bench there. You know, whoever's playing the worst in the back line is almost going to get taken off for the Hammer. And Drinkwater, he had a shocker the other day, let's be honest, some real unforced errors, and he's got a bit of that in his game. I guess he's got some brilliance as well. So, yeah, I guess he'd want to be careful and not follow it up with another shocker this week.
Yeah, personally, if I can self-indulge for a second, pretty disappointed with the trade-in of Murray Taulagi the other day. Again, sort of comes back to the point. I just thought the Cowboys would run through them. Not the end of the world, though, as you say. A couple of good fixtures coming up in the next month, but real down performance from Taulagi. I think he got about 35, and before that was averaging closer to 60. So not the result I wanted from him there. Anything else here, Tommy? Obviously, Tommy Dearden got back to some good form last week, and he could be an option via a duel. Mentioned moving Nicho Hynes down to fullback. If you're looking for a plug-and-play halfback the next month, Tommy Dearden, you could do worse. I think he's less than 400,000 as well, so cheap option there.
Yeah, he's been doing a job all year. He really has. Not someone probably expected to talk about in the preseason, but definitely someone to keep an eye on. I think Luciano Lewis named in the prop this week, prop position. Ruben Cotter on the extended reserves, so I don't know if anyone still has Cotter, but maybe he could be someone to look at for the run home, but probably not for me. Just he's still obviously not fully fit if he's named on the reserves.
Yeah, and a tough injury to come back from and perform the way he did. Obviously, big minutes he is dependent on, given a lot of his scoring through base. So be wary of that if you are going to dive back into Ruben Cotter upon his return. Tommy, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we're going to chat captains. We'll go through our team updates if we've got any, and we'll get stuck into the listener talking points, the questions, maybe even throw in our best bet. You've already given yours, but we may go back to the well.
Having a bet on sport this week? Top this. Whether you're into cricket and curling or golf and greyhounds, TopSport will let you on for plenty. And with literally hundreds of markets from your own backyard to the international stage, TopSport has you well covered. So if you want to get the top odds every time, bet with TopSport.
Top that. Download the app today. TopSport. Feel the excitement.
Don't let the game play you. Stay in control. Gamble responsibly.
Welcome back, SuperCoach365 podcast, proudly brought to you this year, as we were last, by the good folk at TopSport.com.au. TopSport, you can check out all of their markets, as they say there, from golf to greyhounds, cricket and curling. You can get on just about anything. You can do it responsibly. They'll let you on for plenty as well. So if you've got plenty of money like Tommy Hudson, you can get on and have a flutter with TopSport. Quick check-in with the futures as we do. Penrith still rock solid, $1.95 premiership favourites. I thought they may have drifted slightly on the back of that Luai news, because for me that's concerning. I don't know if they can win the comp without him.
Yeah, well, it depends if he does get back, I guess, in time for the finals or early in the finals at least. $1.95, yeah, you probably couldn't touch that now. It's pretty short for a team, 6 weeks out from the semis. I don't really have any value though in the market, to be honest. I guess the Eels at 17, but they just don't show their best enough. I would have said Manly maybe last week with that Tommy Trbojevic news that he could come back, but just with the latest controversies, I don't know, $51, it's probably not even worth it.
My man Val is a moral for top point scorer. He's into $1.35. You can't touch that. Garrick again, if not wishing injury upon Val, but anything goes wrong for Val, Garrick's going to swoop $8.50. And otherwise, though, a top try scorer, we mentioned him ad nauseum today, Alex Johnston. Talk about a moral, $1.01. So if you've got a bit of spare money, some cash you need to turn into something else, $1, Alex Johnston, do it responsibly. No, not condoning that. Taylor May be a smoky there, $16. Murray Taulagi, that man, $126.
Your only chance against Johnson is injury. If he got injured, then you'd play some of these wider markets. But really, what's the point? You don't really want to wish injury upon someone. No,
not at $1 anyway. All those markets, topsport.com.au, you can check them out. And the Premier League is back soon, Tommy. We're going to have a look at that. And there are plenty of markets up there if you're into the Premier League soccer. All right, let's talk some captains before we get into too much trouble. Manu and Teddy, obviously the good fixtures there. A good fixture this week against the Manly side. Sets up nicely for them. If you did have to pick one for a vice, would it be Manu? Would it be Teddy?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky. And we saw last week how important this vice captain can be with, a lot of people putting it on Teddy and he went big. I don't know. When Manu and Teddy seem to play in the same team, maybe they kind of hurt each other a little bit because they probably share the brilliance. So I don't know, I'm really on the fence with this one. Where would you be going?
Probably Teddy. I just think if he's floating both sides, probably more likely for an assist. Although Manu, again, if he gets into that roaming role where they just let him go anywhere, he could be more dangerous. And the kicking game as well, we saw that coincidentally when he was injured. Break the line, kick through, Momorowski scores. So another little string to his bow. But looking away from the Roosters, again, that game on Thursday, so we may not want to straight captain one of those two. Do we dare look to a Munster, an out of sorts Storm across the ditch there, away from home? Could be wet and dewy, Mount Smart at night. Not really, I guess, a prime fixture for Munster to go huge.
No, possibly not. I think if Storm get back to their best, he'll be a big part of it. But there is some factors there, and it might be a big crowd also over in Auckland. So possibly not him. The later game on Friday, I think Nathan Cleary is always an option. Even the other night, I think he got around 70. He didn't do much. He still got 70 in a wet, tough fixture.
Yep.
Back in the dry, although it is often dewy at CommBank Stadium, I still think he's good for a decent score.
Now, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago when it was the Storm and the Sharks on a Thursday. This one's Saturday twilight game. Latrell or Hines? If you had to put the C on one of them, potentially the VC even that late in the week, where do you go? For me, it has to be Latrell.
It's tough because Hines has been so good for so long on SuperCoach, as in last year and this year. There's consistently big scores, but Latrell's last month. How do you ignore that? So, yeah, maybe Latrell, but I wouldn't write off Hines going back to some of his best.
Yeah, looking at my notes that I made a couple of weeks ago, this was before the Pappenhausen injury. I'd had Hines the captain and Paps as the vice, and obviously that was before I really had to consider Manu being out as well, or potentially trading in Val Holmes. So I was looking at Hines as the captain, but then again, Latrell in irresistible form. And of course, that man Valentine Holmes against the Dragons. I mean, we'll probably check out the weather. It's probably too late by the end of the week, but Val, every chance to go big again. Back-to-back scores, 100 plus. Can he do it?
I don't see why not, and the weather actually isn't too bad. Partly cloudy, 17, so it shouldn't be wet. Hopefully, yeah. Obviously, there's a lot of big options out there, but Val showed the other day that he can score and score points fast. So why not?
Check out our captain's call. Of course, we'll put that up on our Instagram Wednesday night, about 7 p.m, maybe a little bit later if Tommy's working the late shift. But check that one out at SuperCoach365. That's where you'll get our best captains picks for the week. And generally, we don't stray too far from the mark. So have a look at that tomorrow night. Let's get into our trading places. Tommy, you're going to kick us off because I haven't got any for this week. Not yet anyway. But you're going to head us off here with your move for this week.
Yeah, I'm being a bit ridiculous. Just keep making trades, and I've only got 2 left now, so that's a drama. But Dylan Brown is out for Matt Burton. You could honestly say this is a sideways trade, but I'm just backing my gut. I feel like Burton's in great form. The Dogs are playing some good attacking footy. They let in a lot of points, but they score a lot, and that's all that matters in SuperCoach, really, for Matt Burton. He kicks goals well, and he sets up a lot of Addo-Carr's tries. And I just think Dylan Brown, the Eels run is looking tricky on the way home, and they're just not playing great footy. He scores solid every week. He never really lets you down with a terrible score, but he's never going big either. And I feel like I'm chasing points, so I've gone to the higher ceiling in Matt Burton.
Did you consider Munster at all? Because obviously, I mean, you've said it from the preseason that he is the pick at 6, but you've gone to Burton just on the back of a recent run?
No, it was a financial decision. Unfortunately, I was about 30k short of Munster. So, obviously, I would have preferred Munster, but to get him, I would have had to make 2 trades, and that would have just been too hard to do. So, yeah, I've gone to Matt Burton, but given that the Storm's tough run after the next 2 weeks, it might not be the worst option anyway.
Yeah, of course. Stick around. We'll do our final teams heading into the new week again on our Instagram, across the socials at SuperCoach365. Probably an hour before kickoff on a Thursday night. So that's where you'll get it. And we do indicate if we have made any decisions after the podcast as we record on a Tuesday. Before we round us out here, Tommy, let's get into this. Some of our listener questions. And there is a absolute screenful. We'll start at the bottom with the Box 95. Simply says, Sam Walker, you've already mentioned him tonight, but as a pod option there at the halfback or 5'8" slot, Sammy Walker suddenly comes into contention on the back of the Roosters, I guess, high ceiling and the good form of late.
Yeah, I feel like they're just running down the hill, the Roosters. They're scoring a lot of points, 96 points, I think, the last 2 weeks, and he's obviously kicking goals, so the more they're scoring, that's helping him. And being, I guess, the dual position helps too, because I think it's hard maybe to make a case for him at halfback, but definitely at 5'8", he's one of the best options.
Baxter McGonigal here says, do you need 2 gun hookers for the run home or just one so we can put the money elsewhere? Personally, I'm going with, I don't know if you call them guns. I mean, they're both Origin players, so I guess you have to. Cook and Coruscant. Probably would rather Robson, to be honest. Made that decision way back in round 13 to go Coruscant over Robson. Happy with Cook, but if I had my time again, maybe I'd go those 2. What are you doing?
Yeah, I've got Grant and I've still got Will Smith, so don't take my advice when it comes to hookers at all.
What about Will Smith? He's come out and got a release from the Titans. He said he's homesick. He needs to go back, see his family in New South Wales. I think a couple of days later he signs a deal with the English Super League club. So very homesick. Riley Milton 4 says, would Drinkwater be a rage trade or should I do it after the benching? Of course, mentioning Drinkwater getting hooked last week and that relationship there that's going on with Hammer. Is it cause for concern around Drinkwater?
I mean, it probably is, yeah, but it just depends how many trades you have. If you don't have many, I wouldn't do it. But if you've still got to fill up your sleeve, there's so many options at both 1 and 6 to replace him.
Just with Drinkwater as well, I've owned him in draft the whole year, so I've kept a keen eye on him. He doesn't have that huge score in him, and when he does get a 70 or an 80, he's generally had a try assist. So even the other day, I think he had an assist for Val. He finished on 34. So, I mean, it just shows you there's really not much there beyond an attacking stat. The Cowboys, we've said it a couple of times, their run's not horrible, but yeah, maybe time to look at moving Drinkwater on. Here's another one here from Professional. He says, buy Munster, Burton, or who else for the 5/8 run? For the run home at 5/8. So you've already answered that with Matty Burton this week.
Yeah, I'd still have Munster top seed there, but Matt Burton is definitely going well, and probably Sam Walker, as we said, also he's not a bad option either.
Cody Walker, or it's too late?
I don't know. He's 100 and then he's 15, so he's a roller coaster.
Alex Brigo says here, I've got 3 trades left, boys. Should I use them or hold on to them? I've got 4 left and maybe not using a trade this week, but you're of the other school of thought. You're just going to use them until you abuse them.
It seems like that. I had 3 as well before tonight's trade, so 2 left. I don't know. What are you thinking about this? Do you still want to have trades left going into the last round in case people rest, or do you think you're not going to be able to hold off that long?
Well, I mean, you look at the teams that maybe would rest in seasons gone by. The Roosters won't be resting. I don't think the Storm can afford to rest. The Panthers now with no Luai, does Cleary rest? Maybe not. I mean, they are 10 points clear, so he may. But I don't know. I don't think there's that certainty that these good teams are going to rest. The Cowboys, unfamiliar with finals footy recent years, they may not rest. The Broncos, you could say the same, so they may not rest. I don't know. It's a different year this year. Another one here, Liam Shampney says Teddy or Latrell, similar runs. Latrell kicks goals and is the main attacking weapon, in his opinion. So he may have answered that one himself.
Yeah, just back your guard. Maybe Latrell, but there's honestly not much in it. They're 2 class players.
Blake Penton, friend of the show, says sell Carraz to Holmes, but have to do it to 2 trades or a centre wing under 629. So obviously, look, there's a bit to take in there, but the key question, is it time to go to Valentine Holmes from some of these cheapies like Carraz, potentially cooler as well? Tass may be a different ballpark. He's a little bit less than those other names.
Yeah, Tass is a bit less, and he doesn't score as well as I hoped. I've got him, and he's just been a little bit disappointing. I think Holmes is... I don't have him, but I wish I did. I think he's pretty important at the moment because I don't think there's a lot of great CTW options.
No. Probably beyond the obvious. But even now, Penrith, that left side, Taylor May, what's doing there? Isaac Tungo, another one that's could be in a bit of strife now. Luai's gone. Jack Murdoch says Brown or Walker to Munster. So has the luxury there of trading 2 of your players or 2 previous players to one that you want to have.
Yeah, well, I actually went through this today, whether to go to Brown or Walker to Burton. I ended up going from Brown, selling Brown. I don't know. He's probably safer than Walker, but he just doesn't have that big score in him at all.
Another one here from James says, should I trade Talakai? And if yes, who for? Now, look, I'll say this. Because of my situation, I was actually looking at bringing Talakai back in this week. Now, I know he's already burned me once. Should you trade him out? If yes, who for?
I wouldn't trade him out. I've still got him, and definitely he's been disappointing for about 12 weeks now. But as we said before when we were talking about, I think it was Nico Hines, the Sharks' last 5 weeks is the easiest of any team. So if you've held him for this long, I think you just hold him out for the rest of the year because he could get another 1 or 2 decent scores.
Yeah, that's what you'd be hoping for anyway. Justin Bailey says here, captains, we've sort of gone through those. As we say, we'll recap all of our best predictions, our thoughts on the Captain's Call post on our Wednesday night post on Instagram. And we'll finish it off with this one. Bosco Harris 14. He says, is it too early to use all your trades? So, I mean, there's obviously rounds 21 to 25 to go. For me, I answer this one. Are you playing head-to-head? Are you playing overall? Because that would sway my thinking.
Well, I think either way, it probably is a bit too early to have used all of them, unless you have maybe 23 or 24 playing players every week and you can cover your injuries. But, if you've only got a few on your bench and then you get a few injuries like we've already seen this week, you're going to be in a world of hurt come rounds 24 and 25.
Now, can you believe this time last year we had 37 trades? Now, suddenly we've got 42 and people are already running out in round 20. Phenomenal, really. Anything else, Tommy? No more questions there, but any parting words of wisdom because you're inside the top 1,000. I guess you can talk a little bit of strategy for a minute. What's your plans going forward with no trades? How deep is your squad at this point of year? Because that probably lends itself to that last question there about using your trades. How many have you got actually in contention each week?
I think I've got about 21 or 22 if you include, Andrew Fafita, who gets about 15 every week, so that doesn't really count. But I guess I've only got 2 trades left. I did say last week I didn't want to make any more. I broke that rule straight away. it's honestly just the temptation of not changing your team every week. It's hard to do, just from an entertainment point of view almost. So got to stay pretty disciplined for the rest of the year. Hope the injuries are on my side, and yeah, just ride out my team and hope for the best. What about you? 4 trades remaining for yourself.
Yeah, as I said, I'd probably always gone with the thinking that I was going to use 3 of them in the last week, but as I said, those teams that are resting or maybe not resting this year, that's going to sway my thoughts there. If I can hold off for as long as possible, I still will, potentially around 24 for head-to-head grand finals. But the way that my team's going this year, I may not need to worry about that. Tommy, let's leave it there. Round 20 to look forward to. As we say, SuperCoach finals on the horizon, but another week to get through this week before we talk any of that.
Yeah, some lower scoring last week, but I think we'll see some huge scores this week, but a lot of big guns having some good games.
If you haven't already, follow us on the socials at SuperCoach365. If you're watching here on YouTube, you can subscribe, thumbs up, leave us a comment. Tommy's got plenty of time. He'll get back to you before I do, probably. This is the SuperCoach365 podcast. Great to have you around. Look out for our Instagram, as we say. That's where we'll wrap up our team. Heading into round 20. It's going to be a big one.